so many. I don't think this is the session where you will be given all the answers. You will just get another angle to the conversation. The purpose of what we're trying to do is that we are trying to sort of talk in public to you about how we would talk about the humanitarian communication, be it post-humanitarian or neo-colonial or whatever. Before we start, my name is Johansson. I'm the director of Amnesty International in Finland, and I have asked all the other panelists to briefly, and very briefly please, explain what your organization does, a bit of its Finnish history, and how much money your organization sort of turns around. And I think this is important because we are all not alike. Some of us are bigger than the others, and we actually work in completely different fields. And just because what unites us is that we do collect money from the public, it doesn't mean that we all sort of come from the same kind of thing. I will just start by saying that Amnesty is the world's biggest human rights organization. It was founded globally in 1961, came to Finland in 1967, was very small until about mid-90s when we started to grow, thanks to actually using professional fundraising methods. We collect around 4 million euros a year, have a staff of 25, 26, and the amount of supporters we count in Finland is around 40,000. That's for me, and then Inka Hetemäki, who is the Director of Advocacy at Unicef Finland.
Yes, hello, good day to everybody. So, to be brief, I start immediately. So, Unicef Finland is part of International Unicef, and Unicef International is not an NGO, it is an UN organization that works in every country in the world. And Unicef Finland has a bit different role than Unicef globally, because we are among those 36 national committees who also fundraise for Unicef. And Unicef International, I mean global Unicef, gets its funding from governments, more than 30%, and 30% of us nationals, and then the rest from different foundations. Which the biggest one is Bill and Melinda Gates, as everybody knows. And so Unicef was established directly after the Second World War, and this is quite important to notice also with this context, because then Unicef started to help European children. So there were 12 countries, and Finland was among those countries. And Unicef Finland was established 20 years after that, 1967. We are about 50 persons working here in Unicef Finland. We collect fundraise over 19 million euros, and we are actually the biggest fundraiser from individual donors in Finland. And of this over 19 million, so over 90% comes from individuals. Yes.
That's 19, not 90, 19.
Hello everybody, nice to see you here. I'm Unna Lehtipuu and I come from World Vision Finland, which was founded 1983 to create a lasting and positive impact or change in the lives of children, families, communities who live in poverty. We are an independent part of World Vision International, which operates in almost 100 countries. It's one of the leading humanitarian organizations, and also the world's biggest child sponsorship organization. Our income last year was 9.6 million, and we are partnering with the Finnish government, so half of the funding comes from the Finnish government, and the rest comes from sponsors or private donors, companies. To do it short.
guardians of the international humanitarian law. The establishment of the Red Cross is based on international humanitarian law, which gives the Red Crescent movement a specific role in the times of war and conflict. Our turnover is about 140 million, but the fundraising is 16 million euros per year. Our international humanitarian aid in Finland is about 35 million euros, basically. This is the basic figure, so to say.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We heard earlier from, I think, both Lily and from Anne, that the humanitarian field, and maybe we just define for everybody that here when we talk about humanitarian, we are talking about humanitarian aid, we are talking about human rights, but we're probably also talking a bit about development assistance in a larger framework, and in some sense also conflict prevention work. We're just going to sort of map all those together. That this field is the most self-reflexive of sort of any kinds of fields. Would you agree? Are we self-reflexive? Do we actually sort of learn and think about what we're doing? Do we actually talk about what we are doing? Who wants to start? Inka?
Yeah, I would say that yes, we do talk and we do learn, but we have a challenge that can we sort of use that what we are learning. Because what I was missing already today in this discussion is that we, the NGOs, were sort of represented like we have all the power of guiding this kind of discussion, but that is not actually true. That we have to, when doing fundraising, I'm the program and advocacy director, so that is not my expertise, but of course as a director I have to be responsible for that also. But still, we have to do fundraising, so we have to get our messages through, and there we are very much dependent on media. And what was not discussed, but okay, perhaps it was not the meaning or purpose, that how media sort of sets limits or frames that what can be discussed. Because not all the messages that we produce, or actually the majority of the messages that we produce that are more sort of serious and more of the business that we actually do, they do not interest media.
Yeah, I would totally agree, because during the break I had to take a telephone call from Kenya, where we're currently working with 2 Finnish journalists and trying to balance out what they want and what is like decent, respectful in our parts. Because there are a lot of good conduct, as mentioned before, for all of our organizations that give good guidelines how to, for example, about a child, for example. That doesn't go together always with media, which we need. And personally, I know it really well because I've worked many years as a journalist in the field, in media houses, and now in an organization. But of course, there is many options for really good collaboration. We need, like, both parts need each other. Because media is, especially in Finland, because we don't have so many reporting journalists in Finland anymore. So media also is interested in taking care of it.
challenges facing children, and we have a research office in UNICEF, within UNICEF, so we have a very steady contact with the academia, but not with the communications side.
To continue from what Kristiina said earlier, I think the one big lesson in having interacted with Lily already for a longer time is that what she tells us about the historical trajectory of our communication is actually sort of things we do know intuitively. If you do not see that while you work in this field, you're blind. I mean, we all had a discussion over the coffee, how we recognize the different kinds of images and the different kinds of historical trends there. But what Lily and some other academics do is actually they structure it and put it into words, which makes it easier for us to discuss this. But my sort of interest is really that do these kind of discussions take place within the organization, and from what angle do you discuss that communication? And now I'm actually speaking about the communications material we ourselves produce. I'm not talking about how we interact with media, because if we look at sort of the big change of internet coming in, of social media coming in, what it actually has meant for all of our organizations is that our communications departments have grown tremendously, because instead of just producing leaflets, instead of just interacting with media, we are actually huge content producers. You can look at all of our organizations' websites, and there is lots and lots and lots of material there. So when we produce our own communication, do we actually sort of, in that conversation, reflect on the kind of things that Lily has said? Can you give an example of how this reflection has taken place in your own organization? Kristiina?
I will start, because I really like one of the conclusions Lily took up is this, give the voice for the most vulnerable in general. And we started a couple of years ago a campaign on silent disasters, because now everybody is looking at the certain, as we know, it's more attractive disasters and crises than others. And we realized the malaria, Kenya, fever, and so on are big disasters in the societies. And then, we started to look at it, how to get the voice, give the voice for the people in place, put them on the driving seat. And it wasn't so easy, because you have to somehow, you don't have to, but we tried to simplify the very complex emergencies. How do you do it? And who is the ones who has the voice of vulnerable? Are the people in the community, are the leaders of the community, are partners in the society, and so on. So it is quite interesting how do you reflect that? Who are the ones who produce the voice of vulnerable people? Is it we because of the various reasons, or are the people chosen by themselves? So this is one of the campaigns we had, and it was successful, I think. We brought up issues which were not in the media in general.
Can I just ask a follow-up? You said it was difficult to simplify. Why do you have to simplify?
Yeah, because sometimes it's true. Very good question. When you have a campaign, you try to draw some kind of themes up, because, as I said earlier, if you take up the whole structural interest, you look at the power, you look at the whole system, and then somehow you are lost in space yourself. So you try to at least identify yourself. What is the message you want to deliver? What is the message I want this audience to understand, or know, or do something on that? This is my thinking on that.
Unna?
Yeah, the discussions, I personally feel that there is many times heated discussions about this kind of communication lines, because we, in my team, or in general as officer, people come from different backgrounds, such as journalism or advocacy or advertising. But I have seen experiences with Kristiina, because the last campaign we did, so we really wanted to take up the voice of children. So it's pretty much based on like direct commenting from children from the field. And that was a change of paradigm in our communication. And we try to underline it every single article, every single interview we make, so the children get their voice. And it's authentic. It's not scripted. And that's a guideline we try to follow. But of course, this simplicity comes also from the fact that if you put it on telly, so it's like 15